Yo, Darious Britt here. Today we're talking about loglines. So a logline is a summary of your script, screenplay, or movie, and it can be anywhere from 25 to 50 words. This 1 to 2 sentence summary of your movie should be very clear, concise, and captivating. When you tell your friends and family you're working on a movie or a new script or a screenplay and they say, "Really, what's it about?" That will be a perfect scenario where you'd use a logline. There's nothing worse than trying to explain your idea to somebody and you either get tongue-tied, can't find the right words, or you bounce around all over your story trying not to leave something out, and you either confuse your audience or you bore them. We mainly use these little suckers for 3 reasons. 1, it's a very powerful marketing tool used to grab the attention of others. For example, a screenwriter would use a logline to hook agents and producers into reading their script. 2, if you use a logline in the writing process, it can really help keep your writing focused. And 3, loglines are a great way to pitch your idea to friends and family to see if you have something worth writing before you actually spend the time writing it. Throw your logline out there on the table and then gauge by people's reactions to see if your idea is actually interesting or if it's only interesting to you. Ideally, you should come up with a logline for your idea or concept before you write your screenplay, treatment, or synopsis for the reasons I just mentioned, but oftentimes it gets written afterwards. It can be very tough to distill a very complicated idea or concept or 120-page script into 1 or 2 sentences. But remember, the point of the logline is to hook your audience. You don't have to tell them everything, you only have to tell them just enough to want to know more. A good logline should identify a protagonist. It should state what his or her problem is and what they're doing to solve it, or what his or her goal is and what they're doing to achieve it. It should also identify an antagonist or a main source of conflict or an obstacle to them achieving that goal or solving that problem, and it should convey genre. When you're writing your logline, don't use names. Names have absolutely no intrinsic value because we don't know who these people are. Instead, tell us something about the character, like what they do. For example, instead of using a name, you'd say a car mechanic or an aircraft pilot or a ghost hunter. Blah, 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 blah. When you're describing your main character, throw an adjective in there. It gives us a much better sense of who they are, and it also helps if it's something ironic to the story. For instance, a squeamish ghost hunter, or a jaded car mechanic, or an alcoholic ex-superhero, yada, 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 yada. Your protagonist should have a very clear goal or objective in your logline. This is the backbone of your whole story. If your protag doesn't have a very clear goal or objective in your logline, then they probably won't or don't have a clear goal or objective in your script. And this is an early indication that your script probably needs a little attention. As far as conveying genre, it's pretty simple. If it's a comedy, it should be funny. If it's a horror, it should be horrific. If it's a thriller, it should be thrilling. If you can incorporate the stakes or a ticking time bomb into your logline, even better. These devices create a sense of urgency. For example, a jaded car mechanic must fix a mafia lord's getaway car in 24 hours or the mafia will kill his family. The ticking time bomb, the 24-hour countdown. The stakes, the car mechanic could lose his family. Some scripts or ideas need a little setup to explain a world that's very different from ours in order for us to know what the hell is even going on. This is mostly common with science fiction, and again, the setup should be really brief. For example, in a world where everybody knows that vampires exist, blah, 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 blah. The most compelling loglines are usually unexpected or ironic, and really good loglines should set up the expectation of plenty of conflict or the exploration of a very unique idea or premise. Basically, if the essential components to telling a good story aren't in your logline, then they're probably not in your script or idea, and that script or idea probably needs work. Example time. A roguish pirate races against Davy Jones and his ship-devouring Leviathan to retrieve the dead man's chest. That right there was Pirates of the Caribbean 2. In this case, Davy Jones, it's okay to name drop because he's an historical figure that pretty much everybody knows for the most part, that has an intrinsic value to it. A high-powered surgeon wrongfully accused of murdering his wife sets out to find the real killer, the one-armed man. That was The Fugitive. This would be the perfect example of a fascinating twist or hook. A guy is finding a killer who has one arm. Both of these examples identify a protagonist, describe the protagonist with an adjective, state the goal, and identify the antagonist or opposing force. Let's do one more. After a twister transports a lonely Kansas farm girl to a magical land, she sets out on a dangerous journey to find a wizard with the power to send her home. This logline has a setup to it. After a twister transports a lonely Kansas farm girl to a magical land. For anybody who has seen The Wizard of Oz, it's pretty obvious why you'd need a setup. Notice there's no mention of the Wicked Witch or the many friends that she meets along the way. You don't have to tell them everything, you just have to hook them and leave them wanting more. If they want to know more, guess what they gotta do? ask you questions about your idea, or read your screenplay. There's a whole art to writing log lines, and it takes practice to get good at it. When you're trying to boil down a complex script or idea into a really clear, concise, and compelling log line, it could take a while. It could take weeks. Some ideas lend themselves well to writing a log line. The stakes and the hooks are so compelling and obvious that you could write it in a day. In others, not so much. You want it to be effective, and in order to do that, it takes time to get the wording just right. Me personally, I've fallen into the habit of not even writing a script based off of an idea if I can't really come up with a compelling log line that grabs your attention, because it's an early indication for me that the idea is probably not as good as I thought it was. There's no right or wrong, that's just what I do. There are some people that don't come up with log lines for their stuff at all. When you're in the actual scripting process, it's not uncommon for your story or your characters to evolve or change. Revisit your log line and rework on that puppy and make sure you have it ready to go. When I was working on my feature film, in the actual writing process of it, I must have changed the log line at least 3 or 4 times. And then after we shot it and edited it and it was almost done, it changed 2 more times. It could be tough to nail down a log line, but the important thing is that you do so, because when you meet somebody in an elevator who could possibly offer you opportunities that could change your career and they ask you what your story's about, you better have that sucker ready. Getting really good with log lines and incorporating them into your process can be an extremely invaluable tool, not only on the professional level, but on a personal level. Well, that's all I got for you. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like or subscribe. If you want to follow me on Facebook or Twitter, there are links below, and Deebert out. Yo, Darious Britt here. Today we're going to be talking about how to make an effective film trailer. One of the most important marketing tools that you have is your film trailer, so it's essential that